Hello to viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Computer Wednesday, we're going to talk about AMD Radeon RX 9000 series. So let's dive deep into it. So this puppy, Radeon RX 9000 series, this is RDNA 4 architecture. Now be very mindful, every company generally have two names, one technology name, another is the marketing name. So this RX 9000 is marketing name, basically what you will see in the package. The technology name would be RDNA 4. Basically how my first Nvidea GPU that was actually somewhat good for that time was Nvidea Pascal. So that's how we generally deal with these things. So this puppy was announced in 28 February 2025, quite recently, and it should be ready by March. So hopefully, crossing my fingers, by early April, it should be available in India. Now this puppy has third gen ray tracing accelerators and second generation AI accelerator, and on top of that, the most interesting development is the video core next. Weird name, video core next, but again you also have to understand they also have a physical hardware like the actual silicon that handles the video on a hardware level, so that also goes through repetitive iteration. So this puppy is at level 4 now, and they are launching two of these things, 9070 and 9070 XT. And the most amazing part is they have 16 GB VRAM. I'll explain why that is such a big deal. And what AMD has done this time is basically they are trying to lock everything in an ecosystem, meaning if you're buying 9000 series CPU, it should be at the same quote-unquote launch generation as 9000 GPU. So if they upgrade to 10,000 series CPU, you should have a similar launch with 10,000 series GPU. So it will be launched in lockstep. That's their target, and again it does make life a bit easier because the only other company that can claim something like that is Intel. Intel is not that big yet, so again it simplifies things. That's why the naming convention is a bit different. That's what they're aiming for as of now. Now, the biggest smart thing I have seen in this is the focus on supply chain, and they're taking a new approach. Now, if you have watched my older video about RTX 5000 series launch, I've specifically focused on this part, that do not take this money part seriously. It's just a lol number. Now, why this is such a lol number? Because here's the deal. Generally, company works for profit. All companies, basically, you have ASRock, Acer, Asus, Gigabyte, PowerCo, Sapphire, XFX, yes on, Yestion, or something like that. Basically, all the companies work for profit. Now, what Nvidia does is just F's them. It's like, you want to make our GPU, you have to follow our rules. Okay, why that is such bad? They give them the price target. Okay, not the end of the world. That's how most of the contracts are done. But they also lock the design. So not only the PCB, the cooler, everything is locked. Also the price is locked, meaning it's not in the companies, basically the people who are manufacturing it, in their best interest to actually make that. So what happens is like Nvidia will say, make at least 10,000 of these. They will make only 10,000 and they will not even try to sell it. Just like we have it. Again, to get the license and all the lawyer to be taken care of, and after that they will make their own puppies and bring them into market. Why? Because each of them sold actually brings them profit. So that's why all the numbers you see on the Nvidia is just brownie points. Basically they are like, let's F the customer. So they will give you a number, you can buy 5070 for 1200 almost $1,300. Like, you will never find that at $1,300, not even 1 minute after launch, because company do not want to sell it. Because again, if they have given them just the price target, this is the price target, meet it, they could have managed that. They're like, this hardware, this price tag, go. It's like, bro, there is not enough room in that. Again, companies just like, you want 10,000 piece, we make the throw one or two pieces of them at their lawyer, and then they're like, okay, now shut up, we're gonna launch our Prime series, XFX series, what else, all these series to make profit. So what AMD is doing is completely different. They are like, hey, zero reference design. Basically, they are like, this is the core, this is the power specs. Of course, I'm pretty sure they would have made few dev boards and they would have just given it to all these companies, like, go YOLO on it. And they would have only locked the cost. Please try to meet this cost target. Now, is it far more tangible to do? Absolutely. Why? Because every company will look into their inventory. It's like, what do we have? For example, this design, it's copy paste from Asus stuff, other designs. So if they're like, hey, inductors, what inductors? Hey, we have used this inductor for our last batch. We have so much of it. We know, quantitative order. We might even have a lot of them in spare. So they're like, okay, we use that inductor. It's like, what about capacitors? Hey, we are, in supply chain with this manufacturers. We got that. So all designs are different because PCB is different. The cooler, whatever they can manufacture at cost, it's already been manufactured. So this freedom allows them to meet the cost target reliably, where they're like, No, it's not like, okay, this model we can sell you, but it will be, loss leading product. No, we can sell you and still make profit, meaning hopefully, fingers crossed, that at this point in time, the pricing that AMD is showing on the charts and marketing and all that should be realistic. Meaning, hopefully, at the earliest April, you should actually able to buy this, because again, so many manufacturers are doing it by themselves. You should be able to actually buy it. That will solve the availability, and because price is locked, you should get the same thing. Again, be mindful, they will also do the same thing. They will have the same bare minimum requirement, but after that they will be like, okay, we have tough QC, tough OC, all that jazz. So this should mean, in principle, low cost graphics card at realistic price should be available. Not be like, okay, this should be $3,000, and they're like, okay, what if we charge 9,000 pounds for this? It's like, and again, even if you pay that much, it's out of stock everywhere. So that's what they are focusing on supply chain wise. Basically, they're like, hey, this is the graphics core. These are the reference protocol for it. Basically, the voltage regulation and all that jazz. Go, you learn it. And everybody is like, okay, hey, we have this CPU cooler, GPU cooler. Put that puppy. We have this shroud design. Let's just put some decals on it and just go with it. Hey, we are only cool enough where we can take care of it with 2 fans. Go with that. So all this flexibility makes it reasonable where you can actually have cards for low cost. So this is a very good approach. I'm very happy. Intel also did the same thing, but again, Intel is not big enough yet. But AMD is. So this is a very good approach, rather than just like troll numberings, where it's like, this is going to be super cheap, cost effective, and you will never be able to buy it because yeah. So I'm very happy with this approach. This is the most smart thing they have done. And let's talk about the performance. Now, it's almost same level as RTX 5070 or 4070. Again, 5070 did not actually improve that much. It was more or less just more AI rendition and all that. So same kind of ecosystem. Now, let that be very clear. If you compare them side by side, the fluctuation would be plus and minus. Then why people are so happy and excited about this? The ray tracing is actually good. Be mindful, GTX to RTX jump, basically ray tracing jump, was 1 generation earlier in Nvidia's side. So they had 1 whole generation to polish this. And AMD was like, it's very good as long as you have the RTX core turned off, basically ray tracing turned off. Like, is RTX necessary? Depends on what type of game you want to play. If you want to play modern games, absolutely. Because again, consoles have it. And if we are, again, I used to be game artist. If you're designing for a console, we do not want to like, okay, redo the whole shader engine and all that, so you can have without ray tracing. So for that reason, ray tracing is become mandatory for almost everyone. So this is the first time. And again, I'm reasonably sure after doing it 2 times, they have learned their lesson. So third ray tracing engine is actually GG, meaning it's not like you turn the ray tracing, FPS goes away. It's like, I got it. I am finally good enough to actually hold on. So again, it still has some penalty, but actually useful, meaning your game is actually payable as it's supposed to look like. So it's a very good thing. And price to performance ratio is ultra part. Now, I have been saying this again and again. You can watch my older videos. Is that the sole reason AMD is a stupid company is simply because they're like, Nvidia is charging this much. What if we charge this much? I'm like, that is stupid. Now, I will talk in Indian rupees. It makes more sense. It's bigger numbers. It's like, for 60,000 rupees, you can get Nvidia graphics card, basic card. And they're like, okay, what if our card was 55,000? I'm like, the performance gap is so huge that at that point in time, you become a bad deal. At that point in time, if I just add 5,000 more, I'll get Nvidia rather than leading with the second. And again, you can see that in their market share. You can see that in volumes of units sold. It's not looking good. And this is the first time they're like, hey, Nvidia is here. We are here. Our pricing is here. The pricing is actually lower. So at this point in time, it's like, I can buy this card that is 60,000, or I can buy AMD that is 40,000, and it's almost as good as 60. So that 20 becomes free for RAM, for SSD, or just money in my pocket because I do not have infinite money. So that is a very good direction. Pair that up with a proper approach of like actually manufacturing the card. That means it's a very good approach. This is the first time in recent memory I can see their pricing is like, we should price accordingly. Let that be very clear. Products are generally not good nor bad. Only the pricing is either good or bad. So the pricing is this first time is like, and again, let that be very clear. Pricing is not that good. It's just Nvidia is so ludicrous. Yeah, it's becoming good. So that's there. And why 16 GB VRAM is a big deal? Because here's the deal. Most of the consoles are 16 GB VRAM architecture. And right now the gaming industry is so stupid, they do not optimize the game. Like that's a forgotten art where it's like, okay, we're launching a game is complete, game is optimized. They're not doing it. They're doing the bare minimum. Penalty of that bare minimum is that they will try to run the game on 12 GB VRAM. They'll run it, but they will not put effort into it. Meaning they will not run through all the scenes, all the game and all that jazz and then figure out, hey, wait a minute, this minute I have one asset is coming into VRAM, opening up, decompressing, and then is overflowing because again, it exceeded the 12 GB cap. It happens. And you can see that in memory load graph. And it's like, that happens. It starts to go to the RAM, computer's RAM, and then tries to, that will give you jittery performance. That will give you that 1% low that dips too low, and your experience becomes crappy. Not because the hardware is limited, it's simply because nobody is porting the hardware according to. At that point in time, having a 16 GB is far more desirable because again, people, if it expands, it will never expand outside of 16 because again, they would have made sure that it fits inside 16 whole way through because that's the consoles are. So this is a very good thing, meaning more than enough time, even with a sloppily optimized game, you should have a good 1% low experience, meaning it should not be like, hey, everything is fine, I'm happy, I'm 60 FPS, everything is cool, and bam, 12 frames per second. And it's like, okay, 60. That jitteriness will not be there because again, all the assets that are expanding would be designed in such a way that it should expand under 16. So that's a very big thing. And not to mention for people who are doing LLMs, shut up, take money. At that point, it's like there is no discussion. It's like, oh, we have DDR-X and all that. No, it does not matter. You need RAM. You need RAM. Like slower, large RAM is far more preferred for more than enough scenarios where it's like, yeah, might as well just get with this. So good pricing, 16 GB VRAM, which is more accurate to market reality. That's a really good thing. And the video codecs, because again, Nvidia's NVAC engine was genuinely polished, and again, they have been putting so much effort into it. It was really polished. This is the first time where their video core, aka AMD's video core, is actually good. And they have been talking about this, like we can finally give you quality video compression at 5 Mbps. Be mindful, the more you compress a video stream at live, real time, the harder the GPU core has to work. So this time they can actually meet the quality standard required. So performance is actually good. Pricing, genuinely useful. And let that be very clear, I'm not happy with the pricing. I'm just happy that Nvidia is going full cuckoo, and they're like, hey, let's not go full cuckoo because there is Intel, and Intel is much closer to AMD than AMD is to Nvidia. So they're like, yeah, let's not go cuckoo. So I'm happy with that. Happy with that performance chart. Now, how does it compare to Nvidia? Every user will look into it. Well, very simple. Nvidia is far more experienced because you have to understand, there is no AMD, it's ATI. That was the original company that went broke and then sold to. And you would think ATI should be great because again, they are the biggest seller of GPU to all the consoles. Most of the consoles have ATI card. They still did not make profit and they got sold. AMD bought them, and AMD still the same issue. So this is not as polished compared to Nvidia. Nvidia really have their experience showing into their products. Basically, their software is like, even their worst software is like, bro, I'm good. Me good, bro. Me good. So it shows in their software quality. And power draw is far more stable. This almost gives a vibe of RTX 3000 series, where the overall power was like, okay, it's good, but the spikes were stupid. This has that. Again, not as stupid as 3000 series, but it does have fluctuations. So people who are monitoring it with oscilloscope and very fine data loggers, they are noticing that if you average it out, the power is good, but like it does have fluctuation. Meaning if you are buying this, I would urge to not cheap out on GPU. And if you are limited by, PSU, if you are limited by PSU, you might as well want to go into Nvidia series. So there is that. And again, the biggest hurdle right now is the productivity suite, meaning how many Adobe engineers work to make sure that it works with Nvidia, and how many Nvidia engineers works with Adobe engineers to make sure it works. That number is much larger compared to AMD, and it shows. And you're like, okay, I don't use Adobe products. Cool. That translates to everything else. It's the same. That's the direct benefit of having large market penetration, ginormous market share. If you have that, more and more developer will polish for Nvidia outcome. You will have better experience in development, and it shows. Now, is it black and white? No. Back in the days, it used to be that much, but it's not that. But again, you will feel that. You will be like, now I'm getting why people pay so much more for Quadro cards. So that is genuinely there. And there are cards that are bigger than 16 GB. It's like, you're like, hey, I need 16. You can buy it. It's just more expensive. You're like, hey, I want 30 GB. You can buy it. Heck, you can buy 128 GB if you want, if you have the money. So money is basically, company is not limited. Company is like, you are poor, it's not my problem. So there is that. And what does this mean for customer? Well, there is no point if you can't afford it. It's like, this is awesome card, you just can't buy it. What's the point? What's the point? Like, you can talk till the chicken comes home. It's just like, what's the point? I can't afford it. It's like, this car is super awesome. Yeah, cool, awesome. It just costs a kidney and leg. Yeah, no. So that's the same point. If you can't afford it, what's the point? And another aspect is the fact that it's always out of stock for most people. That's also not desirable. It's like, I want to buy this right now. Can't, even if you have money. So that's a very big nil point against Nvidia. And again, I do not like this Nvidia's brownie point scheme where they're like, yeah, it's a $700 card. No, it's not. No, it's not. Not even close. I'm talking after few months of market saturation. Then it will be like, yeah, it's $900. So fundamentally, it's not a good marketing side. I hope that AMD does move enough unit that they finally start to crack that Nvidia's monopoly, because again, that's the only way we can have reasonably priced card. So what can we hope in the future? Well, right now there is a market stratification for 3 layers. So you have Intel. Intel is doing very smart thing. They are not targeting someone who's like, loaded, where they're like, okay, we are gonna focus on the target that has been abandoned by everyone. So they're like, okay, we're directly targeting like, $200, $300 card. And again, they are also doing the same thing. They're not trying to make a reference design, which board partners have to. They're like, hey, use the capacitor that you think are best for you. Use the design that is best for you. You want to do it in 2 fan coolers, go YOLO on it. You want to do it in 3 fan cooler, go YOLO on it. You do not have to follow this exact design with this exact PCB and somehow manage to make the price exactly. Yeah, no. Go YOLO. So that's a good approach. Directly targeting a price which is far more comfortable for people. Really good approach. Meaning, if you buy this, and again, this is Gen 2 part, so it's actually useful. And again, given the cost wise, it's really good. And again, AMD, finally the pricing is like, yeah, let's not be like, just a little bit. So, oh, this $2,000 card. What if our card was like, $1,800? It's like, no, if you're that close, people will be like, might as well pay the 200, which was happening. So this time, this whole approach should allow them to keep the cost low enough. So you have low end, mid range, and if you have more than enough money, go YOLO on it. So this is a very good thing. And be mindful why Nvidia is doing. They can do it. They do not want to sell this. They do not want to. They're very clear. They do not want to. Then why they are making it? Well, they are targeting people who are rich, and they are targeting people who are in development studio. Meaning, no matter how expensive this is, if I'm working in game studio and they need Quadro card, they will pay for Quadro card. Does not matter what the price is. If I'm working in Boeing and companies that are making good investment in CAD software, this is free. And I'm talking even A100 would be free. If you're developing an AI engine, those things will be free, in contrast to how much money you have to pay for the compute, basically the brains behind it. So for those sort of people, they're buying it. And again, it's a good way to keep your name in the system and good way to make sure that you have the market dominance, because students are using it. So that's why they're doing it, but they are not interested anymore, and it shows in their pricing. So the main bulk of money they are getting from their silicon point of view is the A100s, H100s, those puppies. So they are doing what they can do with. Now here's the deal. How can we break that monopoly? Well, have good competition. The more people go into Intel, the better AMD will be. And I'm reasonably sure somebody must have looked into the ARC series and it's like, bro, this is way too good for 2nd generation product compared to our series. So, and again, this, I am damn sure somebody looked very carefully into Intel and it's like, yeah, we got to do this. We cannot be like enabling people where it's like, hey, this is a $600 product, which you cannot buy for $600. So this is a very good approach. And again, this is the only way. Once lower enough people can get it, aka students get it, they will code for it. And again, DeepSeek proved you can build a successful AI system without Quadro. So that is good hope. And again, we want this. We need this. Only in this regard, we can have quality controls, we can have low cost and competition and options. So unfortunately, this has still not reached Indian market. I'm waiting. I'm hoping for April. Now, what does this mean? That simply means if you're planning to buy, don't spend too much money on it. Again, I spent bonkersly large amount of money on my GPU, RTX 4070 Ti, and this was during chip shortage. So price, don't even ask me. Like, it's painful to admit how expensive how much overpaid I have to do. But again, I was upgrading from ancient computer of like my 10 years. It had FX8350 as CPU and GTX 4070. No. GTX 1070, sorry, GTX 1070, ancient computer. So I did wanted to jump to 16 GB, but price was idiotically stupid. I was like, yeah, that's just no. I needed to have CPU and RAMs and all that. So I made that compromise. But again, this is my computer, which is my work computer, meaning I do not have the luxury, this is for my gaming and I go to office and they deal with the computer part or deal with the Quadro and all that. No, this is my main computer. And be mindful, money does not buy time, it only buys speed. So my old computer took almost 40 minutes to render video from these camera. The exact camera, exact same format. Now I'm rendering in 10 minutes. And another aspect is my computer does not freeze for 40 minutes. I can do secondary research, make presentation, thumbnail, all of that I can do while my computer is rendering, which is far more efficient. Again, money cannot buy time, but it can buy speed. That's why I invested so much. If I invested in Nvidia, I knew for a fact, again, the pricing. Another aspect was I knew for a fact that I did not have to worry about video encoding with OBS. OBS will work with it. AV1 encoding will work with it. So if you're making money for it, go with this. But if you're not making money for it, you don't have to buy this. And again, from price point of view, this is actually good. Even this is good. You can have good experience with these things. And I would urge you to be patient, be mindful, just let the initial rush die off. Then you can see some good pricing, at least for these two companies. This might be stupid, but at least these two companies should have reasonable prices. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So this was my presentation with basically AMD's new release. Hopefully, this will be a good system. Hopefully, you liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike. Press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.